Hello and welcome back to yet another video. Today I'll be doing a very quick rundown of a $500 PC build for the holiday season. Black Friday's coming up, Cyber Monday's coming up, Boxing Day is not so after. If you're building a PC, this is the build for you. So I'm going to go through the parts in the order I picked them out because I feel like if you have a budget set, the order you pick your parts is pretty important. So I usually start off by CPU. For a $400 to $500 build, an i3-16100 is definitely the way to go. Anything more and you're cutting too much away from your budget and you're going to be left with suboptimal parts in other areas. Anything less is not going to be good enough for gaming. If you go down to say a Pentium G4400, as I mentioned, you're going to have many problems in games that require 4 threads. So at least an i3-16100, that's going to be 2-core 4-thread is necessary. Next up, we have the motherboard. Now, the motherboard for this budget, again, I will have to go with the H110. H110 is the cheapest one, and basically all I did was I went to PC Part Picker and just picked the cheapest one. At this price point, you really can't afford like an NVMe SSD, so an M.2 is not necessary. And USB 3.1 is kind of nice, but again, at this budget, it's just not necessary. Next up is the RAM. At this price point, 8GB is the golden amount. With the H110 motherboard, you're going to be left with only 2 slots, so I would get 1 stick of 8GB of any RAM, basically the cheapest one, and leave a slot open for upgrades in the future. Now for storage, there are 2 options, and I've included both of them in 2 separate builds. If you want only an SSD, you can get a 240GB SSD for about $60, and that will be enough for your operating system, most of your applications, couple of games, assuming you're not running like all games like Grand Theft Auto, which are 60GB. For most games, you can stick 5 or 6 of them on there at a time and you'll be fine. This option is if you're not looking for a lot of long-term storage or high capacity storage. If you don't need to store like 4K videos or HD movies, etc., then you're going to be fine with a 240 gig SSD. And in the future, it's always very simple to add a hard drive on. On the other hand, if you do want some sort of high capacity storage like a hard drive, then you should still get an SSD, but maybe a 120 gig version instead. Save a bit on that and add a hard drive as well. This time you can put your operating system on your SSD and your applications, but your games will have to put on your hard drive, which, assuming it's a 7200 RPM, which is what you should be getting, it's not a big difference. You're going to suffer maybe 5 to 10 seconds extra during load screens, but you're not going to suffer in terms of performance, and that's what matters. The next is the case. The case is a personal statement. Again, I said this for the $400 build I did a couple weeks ago. I'm going to say it again, the case is your statement on what you want your computer to look like, basically. And therefore, you should pick the one that suits you. You can go into PC Part Picker and choose the color you want. You can look through some cases. I would note one thing is you should pick a case that comes with free shipping, because cases do cost quite a bit to ship because they're very large and heavy. So try to find a case that has free shipping if possible. The one I went with is the Rosewill FBM01 MicroATX Minitower case. That's $25 right now on Newegg and comes with free shipping. At that price point, it's very hard to beat. It also comes with front header USB 3.0, which is just a bonus. And now for the power supply. You may skip this part if you went with a case that came with a power supply, as some cases do come with power supplies, but the one I picked does not. So I would be choosing the power supply right now, and I went with the EVGA 400 watt. It is the most basic, again, the bare minimum power supply that I recommend everyone uses. I would not go anything below that, because at that point you're risking a fire hazard, and that's really, again, not recommended. So EVGA 400 watt, that's the bare minimum, and that's what I'm going with for this build. And finally is the graphics card. I intentionally left the graphics card for last because I feel like the graphics card is a very good component to be flexible to fit your build into your budget. So right now, if you're doing a $500 build, you can fit in about an RX 470 or an RX 480, depending on which storage option that you choose. If you only went with the SSD, you could fit in MSI RX 480 Gaming X, which is a great card. It's 4 GB, which is more than enough at 1080p. And the Gaming X has a very good cooler, the twin frozen cooler. It's actually a very high-end card. Right now it's on sale for about $200 with a $20 mail-in rebate. I would definitely get this if you can. On the other hand, if you went with the SSD and the hard drive, then you can only fit in about RX 470 into your build. The 470 is about 15% worse than the 480. Not a huge deal if you're only at 1080p. It also comes with 4 GB of VRAM, which is recommended. And one final thing to note is that prices may change due to sales going on. There are a couple of sales, but usually you can find similar parts with similar performance for about the same price, because there's always some parts that are on sale. Like, you know, today it might be MSI graphics card on sale. Tomorrow it might be XFX. You can find something generally around the prices that I'm talking about, and maybe you'll be 10 or 20 over in a week when the sales are gone. But again, around this price point is pretty solid, and this build will get you 1080p gaming performance for about 95% of the games, and then maybe for the rest of the 5%, like AAA titles, very graphically intensive ones, you might have to turn down the settings down to medium a bit. Otherwise, you can probably max out a lot of things. So thanks for watching this build, and like if you like, dislike if you dislike, and make sure to leave a comment telling me why. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.